Hey guys, my name is VaulSC and thank you for watching my coverage of the Soldiers of Fortune tournament that I played last weekend at Call to Arms in New Zealand. Soldiers of Fortune is, again, where you can take up to 75 points of non-faction mercenaries if you're willing to pay an extra SWC. This is the finals game, the fifth game of the weekend that will determine the outcome, and I'm up against PanOceania. It's my buddy Hexa, who you've seen on the forums and on social media, and in many of my bat reps over the years. So he's that PanOceania player, and sometimes Hakaslan player, that we are very familiar with. And he is using the mercenaries that are allowed by this format. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But it's going to be Aleph, Vanilla Aleph versus Vanilla PanOceania on the mission transmission matrix. Okay, before we jump into the bat rep and the list and things like that, just a bit of background and a bit of context before we go into it. So, the standings. I have managed to get 3 major victories and 1 minor victory, so I should be on 11 tournament points. Realistically, that game against the JSA player should have been a minor victory, most likely. So it's 10 tournament points would be fairer for me to be on, but it's 11 for the purposes of the day. Now, my opponent here did lose a game on day 1 and is a little bit further down with tournament points, but I believe if he gets a major win out of me, I think he'll come up to the same point. So he must be on about 8 at this point in time. And if he has enough objective points for tiebreakers, he might be able to do it, but I wasn't really sure of what the standings were with that. More importantly, across the room from us on a different table, there's one player who's within striking range of winning the event, and that was Thomas, the Varuna player that I played in round 2. He lost to me, but he managed to really beat it up on everybody else, and I believe he got a major win from his other 3 games, so that put him on 9 tournament points. That means that if I lose this game to our PanOceania player, and it's not going to be easy to win this game, and if he gets a total major victory from his game playing Varuna, as you know he may well do, that will put him on 12 tournament points, I think, and he will win. So I can't just cruise to victory here, even though a few people around me were sort of saying, "Oh, you've got it in the bag." Not really the case. Very importantly, though, if I manage to steer this game to a draw, that will also result in a win for the event. So that's something I'm just sort of keeping in the back of my mind as I go into this. Also, if I restrict this opponent to only a minor victory, and if the guy on the other table only gets a minor victory, I should win in that case as well, because my tiebreakers and objective points are very high. So that was definitely something I was thinking about coming into this. Let's now move on to this particular opponent. So, Soldiers of Fortune, I'm running Aleph because I found some good ways to deal with the missions themselves. Like you saw my hunting party list, a lot of NWI stuff, Mark Estate specialists. And you saw my show of force list with Scarface plus Mark II Hacker, tricks like that. Whereas now I'm playing against an opponent who is going more for attrition and really making the most of Joan's superpower here. And let me talk about what we're dealing with. Soldiers of Fortune is a bit of a quirk. It's a special format, and one reason why you wouldn't want to have that every tournament is that it's going to benefit some factions more than others. Vanilla PanOceania is the faction that benefits the most from this, and that's the faction he's playing. I very briefly considered going back to old buddy Admiral, who I've given my PanOceania army to. I was going to go to him and say, hey, can I borrow the Pano stuff again just for this weekend? And I'm sure he would have said yes, and I could have come down with my own Joan of Arc list. That's how big a deal this is, like how important it is. But Joan of Arc, with inspiring leadership, causes all of the irregular models in your army to become regular, and there was no ruling saying that she couldn't do that to the mercenaries that you can grab with Soldiers of Fortune. So in addition to having the usual War Corps that becomes regular, and the Tech Bee that becomes regular, and the Helot that becomes regular, you can also put in some other stuff there, like another 2 War Corps, a Bashi Bazook, that kind of thing. That's what he's got here. And I must say that makes this list very powerful, much more powerful than it should be. The other thing is that Joan of Arc gives you a bonus SWC point, so that almost pays for the mercs already. It's almost like this variant was written just for her. So what I'm up against here, unfortunately, is a slightly unfair advantage in terms of list capability and faction capability. I'm not going to say it's a total mismatch, and hey, I'm abusing it to some extent as well. I've got McMurray and I've got Yojimbo. It's just that they have to be irregular for my faction, whereas Joan has access to all the stuff. So in terms of lists, I feel like my opponent's prepared well, and he's got the better list, you know, for winning this game. I just want to make that clear. That's my opinion only, by the way. Nis HMG, really solid. Joan of Arc, the best profile you can get for a really... I'm pretty sure he's taken the DA weapon. Joan of Arc, yeah. This is the 50-point one, so DA. Bashi Bazook doesn't have to be a parachutist. The fun thing about the Bashi is that it's going to be regular because of her ability, and I'm assuming you don't have to tell your opponent that even when you're in Hollow Projector 1 state, pretending to be another Joan of Arc, that you've gone from regular to regular. You don't have to tell your opponent the history of how it got that regular order. You just say, oh, it's a model with a regular order. So Bashi Bazook can either be brought on the side of the table or just Hollow Projected 1 as something useful. And in this case, for this game, he's going to have 2 Joan of Arc, so I can't tell which is which to assassinate them. I did bring up that in the mission transmission matrix, technically you're allowed to ask, and your opponent technically has to tell you whether a model's hackable or not. So that will allow me to determine which is which I don't really agree with. I don't think that should be the case, but going by the rules, that's how people play it. Krakot, solid. Zulu Cobra, one of the best profiles in PanOceania, possibly the best profile in PanOceania. Techbee, fantastic. It's a 5-point regular, order. 2 Warcores, and there's another one in the secondary list, so you're spending 9 points and you're getting 3 regular orders on guys that aren't impetuous and aren't going to die. They're just going to sit there, and they may be useful by popping out a total cover later in the game and providing a flash pulse. So, and 6 Sense level 1 with stun pistol or 360 visor, very, very useful, and that's something everybody can be jealous of in this context. Liberto becomes regular, so 10 points for a cheerleader that also has Mine Layer, Light Shotgun, Chain Colt, Marker State, you name it. Saito Tagan is an eyebrow-raising choice, and I find that very interesting. I think he's good for this mission. My opponent does watch my bat reps on YouTube, and I'm just wondering whether he saw how well Saito did for me in my last event where I came second at INZO. And maybe has taken a page out of my book, thinking that Saito might also be useful for him to win such missions. He's not hackable. He can deploy next to the central objective. The smoke's going to be really useful, especially for PanOceania, and it gives you that close combat ability that Pano can't normally have. So, yeah, it's fantastic. Nis multi-sniper, nothing wrong with it, especially considering you've got smoke in the faction now. Regular Mine Layer Sensor, great profile. Helot Militiaman, he's regular now, why not take him? Shock Marksman Rifle, well, I mean, I prefer the 9-point light rocket launcher, but he's got his reasons for taking this. Walker, as we mentioned, Yuan, again, access to smoke. You can bring him on the back of the edge and throw smoke grenades for your Nis, or you can just attack with him, up to you. And because he has spare SWCs, he's just going to grab this guy who's cheaper than a Crocman at 27 points, but does the same job as a Crocman. So yeah, it's pretty intimidating, but we're going to go into the game, and we'll have a talk about what actually happens, and we'll do the usual play-by-play. Now, I am winning the lieutenant role and opting to go directly for second turn, as I often do. And we talked in my last bat rep about how that could be a really good idea, but it can occasionally be a bad idea. And we saw that the last game, I kind of gave the guy a bit of a beat down, really, by playing patiently and passively and just waiting to take the objectives, and it worked out very well. This game's a little bit different because I'm up against a person who's been playing me on a regular basis for 4 years and sort of knows my tricks a little bit and sort of knows how to put the pressure on me, so it's going to be a lot harder. And I think you can agree that this PanOceania list that we just saw is much stronger than the Nomad list I was playing last game. Also, Transmission Matrix is sort of like, you've got to move your guys into the areas every game round, and I might start to run out of fuel against a list which is built more for attrition. So deploying here and trying to go second anyway, and we'll evaluate that later, but here we go. There's a post-human sniper here, and that's going to be in hidden deployment, just watching the lanes on either side of this objective room, and there's a lot of high ground area up here that we're going to look at as well. Net rod down here at the back. Let's move through. Does you kill a hacker on the corner? So there's a very big building here, but the objective room's through there. I'm planning on moving through there, or using this to provide AROs against things that are going to flank me through this corridor, because you can actually move through this building here. So does you hidden deployment. Just to explain, this is my designated target. He will be able to get points out of it if he kills it, and this is a mistake from me. I've actually put it in a position where he can deploy guys on the roof and actually walk over here and get line of sight down to her, and the net rod scatters next to her as well, which is not great, so that's not wonderful. There's a better position further around in front of the objective room where she would be safer, so we'll talk about that as well. In fact, finally we get a proper overview of the table, so I'm just going to minimize my face here, get this out of the way, and just talk about what we're actually dealing with. I'm glad I did take at least one overview photo. So, yeah. Let's just take another look. So Aleph is on this side, and there's actually a rooftop on that, and the TO sniper's on here, the proxy sniper, right? Here's your objective room, and the deployment zones are going to be along here. Okay, so we've got 5 objectives, and at the end of every game round, you get bonus 2 points if you're holding, more of the objectives than your opponent, like 3 out of 5, for example. But you can also kill a designated target, and if you kill it with your data tracker, you get a whole bunch of points, like 3 total, I think it is. I feel like I should have put my designated target around here, because when this roof is put back on this building, it's just so easy to walk across, as we'll see in the first turn, just to kill it. Also, this table is a bit wonky. We're not really used to playing on this kind of table. There's a lot of open area space, very big gaps between the actual total cover areas, and the deployment zone's a little bit jagged, a little bit awkward for deploying things. So I may be doing myself a bit of a disservice taking second, because compared to that last table, it's a bit more difficult to defend. So that's another factor that is going to play into this, right? Okay, my Dazu Lieutenant is going to hang out behind this objective here and basically stay there for the whole game, because he's going to want to lend his points to holding that objective. We've got Yojimbo in the building, and he's going to be driving out here with Impetuous, possibly going through this corridor, but later he's going to be shut down because my opponent's going to be deploying the MSV2 stuff opposite him. Importantly though, his Crazy Koalas are going to be back here to help defend my Lieutenant's position. That's quite important. A bit more of an overview of my deployment zone. You can see that I've got a Naga over here. That's a Naga with mine layer boarding shotgun. That's a mine. We've got net rods landing in various places. Again, I should have put my HVT right here. That would have been brilliant, just behind this little truck. The other objective is held by my baggage bot to land baggage points, and the SOF just here, hopefully in total cover. Then we've got the Proxy Mark 5 here, we've got a Flash Pulse back here, another Minesweeper bot back here, and the Red Fury crack up behind this little hexagonal building. But I'm not feeling too happy about it. There's a few different things my opponent can really attack me here with Yuan-Yuans and hidden deployment troopers and bulleteers if he has them. Not that he does in this game, but there you go, that's the back line. So baggage bots, Flash Pulse bots watching the back just in case of Yuan-Yuan's landing. There's my other crack out over here with submachine gun, I believe, just hanging out behind these crates, just staying prone. Yeah. Over to my opponent's deployment. So you can see that there's a NIS HMG and a Krakot, and both of these guys have 4 deployment. The Krakot's got it naturally, and the NIS has it because it's medium infantry. In this edition of the ITS season, you get that bonus. They're both able to deploy on this building prone. Then they can start moving forwards, and if they don't encounter any AROs, they'll just kill my HVT. I've got a TO sniper covering that, but I would be very foolish to reveal the Proxy Mark II sniper, at any point earlier in the game, because he's got 2 NIS that he can just shoot me with, and potentially smoke to back them up as well. He has a Liberto mine layer here, and there's the mine for it there, just guarding his side of the objective room, basically deployed on the other side of the objective room the same way I have with my Naga. We have a Tech B. This is fake drone, so that's actually a Bashi Bazook with Holo level 1 being used. Real drones on the other side. This model is actually a Warcore. He's got 3 Warcores, so just needing various different models to represent them with. Really jealous of the 3-point regular Warcore. It's just unbelievable that you can do that. These 3 Huxlar models are representing the decoys for his Helot. The real Helot, I think, is this one behind the building, but it didn't really come into play very much, so I can't be sure. Another Warcore in behind the tower. Really, you don't want to use your warcores so much to ARO if they are providing regular orders, because they are much more valuable providing that regular order in the next turn than they are with a flash pulse a lot of the time. Regular mine layer over here, and it's there because this is the real Joan, and he's using his mine to help defend against Joan being attacked. Some of you guys may point out that this is transmission matrix. So, if for some reason I am playing an assault hacker, I can actually start hacking and kill Joan, well, not kill her, but isolate her right off the bat. The irony is, though, that the metagame is such that people are not really taking any hackers because they don't want to, accidentally come up against Onyx or Tunguska or something like that, and suddenly up against Evo Repeater, Interventor, Mirror Problems, Killer Hackers, that kind of thing. It gets really, really annoying. So my opponent's sort of kind of gambling on the fact that he knows that I'm unlikely to take any of my own hackers and has Joan of Arc in his list. Would have been interesting, again, if I'd been running my other list and taken my assault hacker. That would be a really interesting thing. But then again, I don't know if he's bluffing too and if he has killer hackers in his list. I just don't know at this point. I have one killer hacker, but really that's just so that the Dazu can be a specialist. And the Dazu can do plenty of things other than hacking, so... Point taken. There's the roof lifted off where you can see the mine placed by the regular mine layer, which is near to Joan's position. Another overview shot of Warcores, Helot, the building. This is a tower where he's going to put his NIS sniper very shortly. So we're just making sure that things are placed correctly. Roof's going back on. These guys, as you can see, we've got the NIS and we've got the Krakot moving towards this corner. They'll be able to kill my designated target and my net rod, and then even move over here and set up a position behind this billboard if they want to. And it's going to make life hard. My reserve trooper is McMurrah. Decided to punt him down here. Just because all the other spots I found weren't really to my liking. I didn't want him, playing a bulleteer as a reserve trooper and coming around and sweeping me and shooting me. I like this spot because he can jump down off the roof and go around the flank, and he can use super jump to get on top of the second level of the building. Problem for me, though, is that my opponent counter-deployed with a NIS sniper, which is really going to help lock McMurrah down. So there's the data tracker being chosen. It's the Mark V. Again, my opponent seems to have outplayed me with HVT placement because my HVT is in a terrible position and his is all the way on the opposite side of the battlefield, way away from my proxy, and it's going to be very unlikely I'm going to be able to go for it. Just making this guy the data tracker because he's good at shooting and he's resilient, and there may be an outside chance of me doing a really long sprint later in the game to go kill the designated target himself. Okay, so I don't think I've taken a photo of the sniper's position, but the reserve trooper for Pano, I believe, is a Hexa sniper in this location, prone on top of this tower. Can't see through the building, but it has a really good clear line to where McMurrah is through that, and really good line over that side should I come after Joan. Also, if I come around to take on his HVT, which is somewhere in the vicinity of this part of the battlefield where my face is, just draw a scribbly line, she can actually cover that as well. Okay, so Pano turn 1, spending a command token to reduce his main order pool by 2, but what happens is we have a Yuan walking in on the side of the table near to my deployment zone, and I was kind of worried that something like this would happen, but I've got to just bear it. I've taken second turn to give me the supreme advantage of being able to sort of see where I can grab the points later in the game in terms of the objectives, but the hard part is just surviving. So we've got a Yuan moving in. And elsewhere, Impetuous, because this is Impetuous moves showing up. Yuan gets that for free. Data tracking Krakot moves over here and eventually gets line of sight to my HVT, which he's able to shoot, designated target, I should say, with his gun. And I was considering revealing the Posthumum, just so I could try and snipe the Krakot, and if I killed it, he would lose his data tracker, wouldn't be able to pick up the extra points from my HVT, so I'd get a huge bonus there. The problem with doing that is that I would absolutely lose my Posthuman at the very next order, and the Krakot may not necessarily die, he could just dodge, and it would be very wasteful to lose that sniper when he's going to be useful later in the game. It was a close call, there's definitely a case for both of those decisions. Ended up not going for it though. Yuan now moves in, and moves in a location where he can target the Krakot and the Minesweeper here with his chain rifle. So, considering that he can do a lot more damage than just this if I let him, the bot's going to dodge, and the Krakot's just going to fire his chest mine back in the hopes that he fails the save. I can lose the Krakot here, but there's a SOF attack to revive him, so I'm thinking, okay, go for the chest mine. Now, luckily for me, the Krakot does tank the armor save and lives, but the Yuan does go down. I think I might have lost the bot, but can't 100% remember. Main thing is the Yuan did die here without killing the Krakot, which was lucky. It was lucky. Now we have the Nis moving around with his HMG, shooting the net rod, so that picks up a point. It's going to leave me pretty low on orders if he gets a lot of kills here. Then he's going to start moving around, and the sad thing for me is that my deployment zone was already kind of tight, and my deployment wasn't really the best either way. There were more things I could have done. So Nis now moving in, and he's going to be able to shoot that net rod, and once he gets around to this sort of position, he's going to be able to shoot the side of my Krakot over here, which is bad, you know. I can't really afford to have my order pool completely gutted, otherwise it just gets harder and harder as the games go by to storm this room and actually capture this middle objective, which is something I'm going to have to do. Then he reveals a hidden deployment model, which, as the audience, we know is Saito Togan, and he's deployed halfway up the table, and he's going to make a move on me. And this is quite aggressive, and aggression is good in infiNity. Some people don't know how to do it well, but when you do, it's a big difference in your game. He's moving out towards here, and the plan is to move through and take out the SOF attack, because if he does that, I can't go and revive this guy who's been shot by the Nis. He won't even need to spend another order shooting the Nis at it if I've lost my only doctor. And then he can actually keep Saito somewhere in the corner here, and I'll have to kill Saito, otherwise I won't have more points, or enough points to actually take this thing over. So things looking pretty bad. Saito moving around and into combat with the SOF attack, and in desperation, I'm triggering my Naga with boarding shotgun and trying to shoot Saito in the back with the boarding shotgun. This is going to hopefully allow me to at least put Saito down, meaning that I won't have to retake this objective, and that I won't lose any more guys to him, and I don't have to spend any more orders in my turn trying to kill him. Now this unfortunately doesn't work, despite the shotgun's range band. It's -6 for Tio Camo. The Naga whiffs the shot and Saito survives it, so a little bit unlucky there, but we're not really expecting, you know, with one shot for the Naga to have great odds at killing him. I was lucky with the Krakot earlier on, now unlucky with the Naga, but again, we're not expecting the Naga to do well given the odds required. Saito moves in, and of course he destroys the SOF attack very easily. So, not great. There's Saito's new position. He's able to use his combi rifle, I believe, to go up against the Naga, and I believe the Naga does actually get hit, which is still pretty bad, and then goes back into camo state over here. He also is able to destroy the baggage bot, which is collecting this objective. So things looking pretty bad. Baggage bot down, SOF attack down, I believe the Naga down, one of the Krakots down. I've lost 2 net rods, I think. Designated targets already destroyed. So yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Now, you can't let up if you're the Pano player. You know, you can't feel like you've won because you know, there are turns left, and if you're not going second, you know, you don't have that easy ability of just moving one marker state model into range of an objective and capturing it. So you've got to keep the pressure on. He's spending a lot of orders in Group 2, and bear in mind this is a good solid 16 order list, right? You know, 16 regular orders in it if you count the iron one, I suppose. And now he's moving the irregular mine layer towards my position, and he's going to try and set up some mines around the location of the Krakot, because if the Krakot moves out, he wants to be able to kill it. He knows that the Krakot's my best shot at going through the door here and taking out Saito Togan, so he wants to be able to neutralize the Krakot in that way. Very strong. So he comes around here, plants some mines, and he's put his model in a position where when I impetuous, if I'm impetuous, I'll have to go towards him rather than to Saito, who's in marker state, and that's going to mean that I'm going to have to try and dodge the Krakot's, you know, dodge with the Krakot to survive. So I thought he would come even further in and try and actually attack the Krakot with this guy to make it even harder for me, but he's gone and kept this guy alive, planted the mines, and just put it over to me. So, adding up the orders, I'm in a pretty bad spot. I've got 3 turns to play out, and I've got to try and get something significant done every turn. The scoreboard says 3-0 to my opponent, and he's also killed, you know, 5 or 6 guys already, if you count net rods and things. So I'm looking carefully at the board and just doing exactly the things that I need to do. First of all, spending an order on this post-human to come around here, and I've got a nanopulsar, I think. Yeah, I think I've got a nanopulsar and 2 SMGs. And I'm really wanting to try and beat Saito Dagan. If he throws smoke, then the Krakot's the only hope of getting in there and exploding him. So, coming around the corner here, then doing a Discover Shoot. And I've got 4 dice with SMGs, plus 3 for range, minus 6 for TO camo, so hitting on something like 9s or 10s or whatever these guys need with their ballistic skill. And Saito throwing a smoke at his feet, I think needing about a 15 or 16. And I need this to go right. And luckily for me, it does. Saito does get hit, Saito does get shot and killed. But you can see how easily this turns into a disaster for me, given the way he's played Saito. So quite a strong Saito play in my opinion. Yeah, I can't really fault that tactic he's used. Luckily, my dice agree and come to the party and save me and bail me out. So this does allow me to move the post-human in, and even though it's only 10 points, it's going to be in range of this objective, and it's going to hold that for me again. Seeing an opportunity to score, and I need to get points on the board as soon as I can. Bear in mind, guys, I can play for a draw, and at the very least, I want to prevent my opponent from getting a total victory. Remember the context of this game. Like, I want to be able to prevent, a major loss from happening if I can, because I'm still in the runnings, and the guy on the other table playing Varuna may well, not get a total victory for his game, so I need to try and get points on the board, even if it means I don't win. So we're now moving out with the Dazyu, Killer Hacker, from Hidden Deployment. He's taking up from his position here, and he's moving towards the objective room. At some point, he's using his combi rifle to shoot the Krakot. So as he's leaving this position, he's moving around here, and he's got line of sight to the Krakot somehow from this position. In fact, he moves out a little bit first 1 inch, and then he comes back 3 inches. And that's going to enable him to shoot his combi rifle at the Krakot. And again, luckily, in terms of dice, the game going quite well for me, the Krakot is shot and killed. Having said that, though, I mean, it is a surprise shot. He's got 3 shots. He's got good ballistic skill, no cover for the Krakot, so it's pretty likely that will happen. Then I can move my Dazyu all the way into the objective room and go back into Marcus State. And again, it's close 4 inches, but it is within range, and the Dazyu is actually able to score at the end of this turn. And that's going to put 2 objective points on the board for me. Very important. But again, problem is my opponent is going to just keep grinding me into dust. Like, my Dazyu is going to die next turn. He may be able to set up more kills. He'll be able to set up more defenses in the central room. And the problem is that if this is the only game round where I get the 2 points, and he gets another 4 in the following turns, it'll be a bit of a thrashing. Also, let's say I get another 2 the following turn, bringing me up to 4, and then in the final game round he does set something up that I can't break. He'll win 5 points to 4, so it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. But Dazyu's in there, trying his best. We now have the Krakot moving out to dodge both of these mines and go after the irregular. Now my thinking is, what I can try and do is try and dodge these mines and then go after this irregular, or I can just spray him down and try and kill the regular. And for the life of me, I can't 100% remember what happened here. I believe the Krakot did die, and I think he does end up shooting the regular. We'll find out later from the photos, but I was going for a bit of a trade here from what I can recall. Yojimbo, at the start of the turn, I had to spend a regular order to restrain him from moving out because, unfortunately, if he does move out on his bike, the sniper's going to shoot him. With that in mind, I spend his irregular order to dismount from the bike and move over here. We're using Joe Scarface Turner to represent dismounted Yojimbo. My buddy Chris has loaned me the Yojimbo model since I don't own it anymore. But he's moving to this point here because he doesn't want to be coming around the corner with his next impetuous move. So now with Impetuous, he's either going to be going this way or around there, and neither of those 4-inch moves are going to take him into line of sight of the enemy Nis. Also repositioning the little koala boys as well. Alright, so back to my opponent. He's got this guy who apparently survived against the Krakot, so that happened. And now he's going to be moving through here to try and take on my what do you call this guy? The post-human Mark V proxy. And again, this is pressure and pressure and pressure. If he does get this guy to kill the post-human and sets up here, I mean, what have I got left to actually overcome this? I've got flash pulse spots, that's what. My only hope of taking this objective back would be to move a baggage bot in and hope that it doesn't die and have more points than him, and then in the next turn he just kills me. So this, again, is a very precarious, high-pressure situation where, regulars coming in at me. And I'm thinking, well, what about using the nanopulsar here? That will force him to take a BTS check, and if we both die, I can move something into the range of the objective. Or he might only get 1 wound on me, in which case I'll go NWI. I believe I ended up going for the SMG anyway, just because I wanted to be able to block as many shots coming my way as possible. And my hope was that, you know, maybe in the first round he'd strip 1 wound off me, and in the future rounds I'd actually win it. The more attempts he's got to make at doing this, the worse it is for him. Yeah, my opponent is sure to be able to comment on the bat rep, but I think I remember using the SMG, which might have been a mistake. The nanopulsar might have been better. Nanopulsar was definitely a good idea if you've got mimetism or something like that, or if you've got higher armor, but this guy, not so much. Anyway, the point is, we really want to get rid of the regular, and again, a recurring theme in this game, I managed to get lucky. I did manage to kill the irregular here, and regardless of whether the proxy dies or not, I do have another bot that can move in onto the objective. In this case, though, I think what happens is that the proxy takes a single wound, goes into NWI, and at some point, either this order or the next order, manages to kill the irregular and is saved. So, luck. Dice going my way, very important, and, you know, this game, I need it. We now have a move here from the Zulu Cobra. Very powerful profile. He's moving around, and his goal is to get to a position where he can sense a sweep and reveal the marker state Dazyu, who's in this corner of the building over here. So that's what's happening right now, and this is going to be a very easy way of dealing with the Dazyu. So he's coming through here, he's revealing himself. Initially he was just out of range, then he moves a bit further forward and does reveal me. So we get over here, and it does reveal the Dazyu. There you go. And once the Dazyu is revealed, it's a lot easier for the Liberto to move to the corner of the door, place a mine. This would be an intuitive attack if I was still in marker state, but I'm not, so mine goes down, and then he can simply move into the room with the Helot, and you know, mine goes off, the Dazyu eats it, and he can shoot with the Helot and so forth. I really was hoping that I'd be able to dodge that first mine just to slow him down a whole lot, but the Dazyu did take the mine, failed the armor save. Unfortunately, the mine with shot gets around NWI, so lose a very valuable trooper, as I was expecting to. But again, I mean, I've been very lucky in this game so far. There have been some face-to-face rolls which I shouldn't really have won that I did win, or, you know, that I needed to go right and they did go right, whereas losing the Dazyu here is pretty expected, and I didn't get lucky in this case, so that's fair, right? That's, you know, that's to be expected. We then have the Zulu Cobra moving in, and as we all know, you know, this is a problem because he's got a jammer. Like, I've still got 2 more game rounds in which I need to move into that room, but now I'm having to move through that jammer, and we're setting up mines, and there's a the Liberto there now, so it's just getting harder and harder and harder. By the way, his sensor sweep also picks up my mine, which is, you know, harmlessly on the other side of this wall. Okay, also moving out with his NIS, setting up here. So this NIS controls this pretty well, and he's going to be able to set up suppression fire, and he's got a nice big arc here and suppression fire on this section of the battlefield. You can see how it's going to be difficult for me to actually move anything into the middle room. My plan here is to possibly sacrifice my lieutenant to go after the central room and use your Jimbo to move on to this objective. And if the lieutenant constitutes more points than the Liberto and the Zulu Cobra, then I can take it. In fact, I might even be able to get past the NIS somehow and shoot the Liberto in the room, but we'll see. I've got another turn to come. But again, every turn after this is going to be rather weak because my autopul's, you know, taken a big hit. My opponent revealing that he does in fact have a regular Bashi Bazook, puts it into suppression fire for no other reason than that it's sort of defending an area of the battlefield where his designated target is standing, and Jones not really in jeopardy anymore now that he knows that I really don't have an assault hacker. Okay. We also have some movement over here from the NIS sniper on the roof, the first photo we've taken of it, and repositioning some of his warcores, his army of 3 warcores. Okay, now this is the part of the game where things get really exciting. Like I've been holding out for it, guys. So if you haven't been on the edges of your seat for the game so far, and it's been an interesting game, like I'm getting beat, like I'm losing. Now we've got some really interesting plays. This is fun. McMurray, in the first game round, used a regular order just to restrain, so he didn't do anything, because he's going to get shot by 2 NIS, right? Things haven't changed. In fact, they've gotten worse. We have a NIS sniper that's going to shoot him, and the NIS HMG is now in range with suppression fire. So it's even worse. But the difference is that McMurray is in range now where if he does use Impetuous, he's going to actually walk along this roof. There's actually a roof supposed to be over this corridor, by the way, and will come within chain rifle range of this NIS and suppression fire. So I'm thinking to myself, well, if he gets shot by the NIS sniper, that's maximum of 1 wound because of total immunity. And if the NIS goes for suppression fire, at least I can plant 2 chain rifles on him. And if he dodges, well, McMurray might actually get a second activation after this. So we go for it, and McMurray comes around here. The NIS sniper, I believe, whiffs the shot on like a 17. And the NIS shoots him and crits, already 1 wound, and pumps 2 more shots directly hitting into him. And McMurray rolls the armor saves and tanks both of them, armor 4. So lucky, you know, I've had a lucky game so far. Even though I'm getting smashed, you know, it would be much more of a horrible smashing if I hadn't been so lucky, is the point I'm trying to make. But McMurray gets lucky in tanking those 2 other saves. It does still take the wound from a crit, so he is bleeding. But the 2 chain rifles now get laid down on the NIS, and the NIS crumbles. He dies. So now there's only 1 NIS to deal with, and we still have an active McMurray. So McMurray, oh, by the way, we've got Joe, who's also Yojimbo, by the way, going out impetuously as well. So he just moves closer to this objective. So then McMurray is able to jump down again, and he ends in a position where because this is a infinitely high building here, the NIS will be able to shoot from this point here, but McMurray is moving across this line with super jump. And McMurray, at this point, is able to do a regular dodge. Can't smoke dodge because it's no use against MSV2. And basically will move past the position of the NIS and get shot again. Now, physical 16, so he's got a decent, you know, he's got a decent shot at it, a decent chance, but the NIS actually plants the shot home. It's not a double action round anymore because of total immunity, but it's still damage 15. So we throw the armor save, and McMurray survives again. Like, he tanks the armor save. So, although he's been hit by a crit, the NIS missed him first time, and he's already tanked 2 HMG armor saves. Now he tanks a 3rd sniper shot. So you can sort of see the trend here that I'm getting very lucky, like luckier and luckier and luckier and luckier. Looking interesting. So McMurray is now free to move towards the room, which is not a scenario that we anticipated. There you go, there's the sniper firing at him and unfortunately failing to finish him off. So McMurray in the distance is laughing all the way to the bank, all the way to the objective room, all the way to the transmission matrix. So here he comes, moving in here. We're now able to get to a point where he moves up to the door but not around the door, and then he's going to be able to move in, guns blazing, and take on the Zulu Cobra and the Liberto and even the mine. So in he comes, just driving straight around here. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I've been lucky so far, but I can't expect to get lucky every single, you know, order. So I'm just going to go in there, wait to see what they do, and then just blap the chain rifles down. If they both dodged, then I'd be dodging as well to set his mine off first, and then to go in close combat with the Zulu Cobra. But, and by the way, thanks to stealth, I was able to get into this position in the first place. But what happens here is that the Liberto fires his chain colt, I think it is, or maybe the light shotgun, either one. The mine goes off, and the Zulu Cobra actually fires his combi rifle just because my opponent really needs McMurray to die. If for some reason McMurray doesn't die, this game suddenly gets harder and harder and harder and harder because McMurray is very good at you know, beating off, you know, smaller troops that just try and come in to claim the room. Like, you don't want to give McMurray another active turn, and you don't want to spend too many orders trying to take him down. So what happens in this scenario? Who dies and who doesn't? Well, the mine goes off. McMurray survives the mine by passing another armor save. The chain colt or whatever goes off from the Liberto, and McMurray tanks that as well. I don't know. Then whatever the Zulu Cobra does is also ineffectual, and the chain rifles go down, and they blow everybody up. Yeah. So. Oh, by the way, sorry, I forgot to mention something. As a response to this move, he also goes and idles with the Order Sergeant, and the reason he does this is because he doesn't want he doesn't want to end the game round in a scenario where all 3 models are dead, right? So let me explain. What if the chain rifles go off and kill the Zulu Cobra and the Libertos, but the mine kills McMurrah, and I end the turn with nobody in the room? That would mean that neither of us gets 2 points for the objective. So he's smart enough to foresee that, so he's actually revealed his guy. It's my active turn, so he can't reveal models unless I come into line of sight of them, right, that are hidden deployment. So this is actually quite a clever play. Like, I commend him for doing this, but all he can really do here is idle. If he shoots with the Auto Sergeant, then I've got an opportunity to fire at him as well with the chain rifles. So now we're in a spot where, you know, guns are blazing, chain rifles are going off, McMurrah seems to be invincible. He's just passing every single save. And now we have a new model appearing in the room. That's this Auto Sergeant. Bear in mind, guys, this is not officially an objective room. It just looks like one. In the transmission matrix scenario, there is no actual objective room. We're not playing this as an objective room, just as a piece of scenery, by the way. So it's not like one of these missions where you're not allowed to deploy in here. Moving on, things are getting wild and dangerous and kind of nerve-wracking for our PanOceania player here. The Liberto actually does not die because he has Dogged, and that's something I'd forgotten about, but I still would have done this anyway, just because I'm expecting McMurrah to die, and I want him to take down as many people as I can. I'm not expecting to have any additional orders. I'm just being given them, you know, on a silver platter, really. So, surprised that he is alive, McMurrah moves again, and he moves into base contact with the Zulu Cobra, and I think you guys can understand why. But what happens here is that the Liberto is shooting at him again, and the Zulu Cobra is using his combi rifle again, and the Auto Sergeant realizes, well, hang on a second, would it not be legal for McMurrah to fire his chain rifle so that the short end of the template's touching this side of his base, and the long end's going down here? And that would be touching both this model and this model. So even though he's in mark state right now, legally I can actually put the template down in a spot where it will hit both guys. And understanding that, he has to go for a dodge with the Auto Sergeant, which will reveal him. So yeah, rough spot. Auto Sergeant dodges. We've got the Libertos, which shoots again, and the Zulu Cobra shoots again. The difference this time is that I can actually have a very good face-to-face roll with the Zulu Cobra, and I can be very sure that the Zulu Cobra is likely to die with a melee attack. I don't even need to use Berserk because I want to be able to just beat his roll. The Auto Sergeant has already declared dodge, so I don't have to really worry about him. So the outcome is that McMurrah chops the Zulu Cobra in half. The room's spraying with blood now, banging him into the wall. Auto Sergeant dodges, nothing happens to him. And the Libertos tries to finish McMurrah off with his shot because he's walking into close combat, so light shotgun or whatever. McMurrah tanks the shot again. Like, there must be 6, 7 past armor saves at this point, and we're both like dumbfounded as we're looking at this. My opponent's a very resilient fellow. Like, any other player would be in tears, but this guy, you know, straight face, just total poker face. So McMurrah runs in, kills the Zulu Cobra, Auto Sergeant's fine, and the Liberto is dogged. So amazingly, I can actually stop spending orders on McMurrah now. In fact, I've run out of orders to spend on him at this point. And dogged is going to kick in before the scenario is scored, and McMurrah's worth more points than the Auto Sergeant is. So I'm actually going to pick up another 2 objective points in this game round as well, miraculously. I shouldn't have. My opponent should actually be up in the game now, 5 objective points to 2, given the way he's played quite well here. But that just doesn't happen because I've been so absurdly lucky. I do have some more orders, just not in the same group that McMurrah's in. Realizing that I have an opportunity to put some pressure on now, there's a NIST sniper on top of this, and we've lost the HMG here. So I'm deciding to move my post-human from this position around behind the total cover, forcing my opponent to delay, and then I can use surprise shot to go after the NIST. It's risky, but although he's got mimetism, I've got surprise shot, he ignores my TO camo, and it becomes a situation where we both need 10 to hit, but I have 2 dice, he needs 1. He has 1. So the odds are that I'll be able to kill him. If I miss, if I don't kill him, I'll be in total cover, so he can't shoot me back. And if he does win the shootout and I pass one of the 2 armor saves, I'll be in total cover. So it's a reasonable move to make given those factors. So we have the post-human TO sniper showing up now, and he's able to do it. He fires at the NIS and kills him. Note that the Order Sergeant is able to see me and would have got a free dodge arrow, which he would have used to move around here. He does that. Had he not done that, I would have been able to move back and shoot at him with the post-human, right? Bear in mind that the way that McMurrow was played, if he had been in a position where, let's say the Liberto was still alive or the Zulu Cobra was still alive, I could have possibly shot into the room with my sniper to kill his Order Sergeant and leave him in a situation where he didn't have enough stuff in the room to score. That may have been a possibility. Anyway, there's the Order Sergeant dodging out of the way of the door, and McMurrow's just sitting there having a big laugh. Alrighty. We also have Yojimbo moving in as well. This is Group 2's orders. I do have some stuff left. Because the NIS sniper has been killed, Yojimbo is free to start moving out on foot, and he's going to bring his koalas with him. And the plan here is to set up Yojimbo by the doorway so that anything else that moves into the room in his final turn will have to contend with the koalas as well. So that's the plan, just setting up here. And Yojimbo himself might be able to move into the room in the final turn anyway, and really help to take it back and get some more objective points. At this point, to win, I would just need to kill the things that are in the room or go after one of the objectives elsewhere in the table. So, the final PanOceania turn, and look, if you can't get others to do it, you have to do it yourself, and that's Joan's motto, and she's going to start moving. So Joan, using her inspiring leadership, coordinated order, is going to start moving out, and she's going to move to there first, then she's going to move through here, and she's going to eventually move to a point where she can go after McMurrow. Or at the very least, just park herself in the room and control it. So, yeah, this is what's going to be happening. Joan starts moving in. Now, we do get to a point where Joan, I think, comes into line of sight of McMurrow at long range. So McMurrow throwing a smoke on a 19 against Joan's long-range gun or whatever she's going to be needing. Again, McMurrow, on a consistent run of good luck, plants the smoke grenade. So to get rid of McMurrow, she's going to need to come to close combat. And close combat's, where McMurrow is generally pretty good. In fact, equally as good as Joan. He does have Berserk, but he's not really going to be wanting to use that against her because she's got 3 wounds. If the close combat's going in such a way that she loses the first round, takes, say, 2 wounds, and then spends a new order, then you Berserk, because you know you can finish her off. But you don't want to, die and then leave Joan with, a wound left. It's not going to work very well. So she's continuing to move in, moving the camera out of the way here. So there she is, starting to move towards the objective room. We do have some repositioning from the War Cause, possibly the Hell Lot as well. But eventually, just walking her way in, order by order, until she gets into the room. Now, the smoke template is still there. I've just removed it for the purposes of the photo, and she's coming to this point where she can tie him up in close combat. So, walking in there, I believe she waits, I think, for the Order Sergeant. I'm not 100% sure what happens. No, the Order Sergeant can't move in, otherwise the Sergeant would just get hit by McMurrow. So, Joan coming in first and swinging. Now, she knows that she can afford to lose 1 round. Even though they're even odds, both CC23, both MA3, she can lose at least 1 round because she's got 3 wounds, and the maximum McMurrow can do is 2 wounds. So she comes in there, and the first swing that she takes, she wins. So that's a save that McMurrow's got to make. It's a double action sword, but only 1 save because of total immunity. She's got a pretty good physical stat, but he's got armor 4. Throws the dice, tanks the armor save. Of course he does. He's McMurrow. He's passed 1 billion armor saves this game. But here's another one. We also have the Order Sergeant moving over here to a position where he can plant a mine. This is to stop Yojimbo to coming in too easily and killing Joan. And then after placing a second mine, moves into close combat with McMurrow. You guys may question this, but both me and my opponent here believe that a reset is a valid ARO when you're in close combat, meaning that you can use zone of control shenanigans to walk into close combat without being attacked. The order sequence is that you do something else outside of close combat. McMurray is allowed to reset, even though you're not going to hack him, and then you can walk into close combat and he's already expended his ARO. That might sound cheesy, it might sound even worse than the normal zone of control AROs, but I believe that is legit. I've used it before, he's using it now, and we get to a spot where there are 2 mines to go off on Yojimbo as he comes around the corner. Order Sergeant's in close combat, he's running out of orders here, and Joan can actually have a bit of a swing at it. My opponent's played pretty well in this game. This is one spot where I feel like maybe this is a mistake. If you get the Order Sergeant into close combat 1 order earlier than this, then Joan can make one last swing at him with 2 dice instead of 1. And if that allows you to finish McMurray off, then Joan can pretty easily defend against Yojimbo as he comes around because she's got the mines and she's not having to fight McMurray at the same time. So that's a small misplay in my view, but very small, and up until this point I think that overall the game has been played tactically quite well by both players. Alright, we're almost at the grand finale here. Final order of the game. Oh man, I mean there's not too much else I can do in my turn. I'm looking at the table and I've got the last turn here, and what I can do is actually send the Dazu Lieutenant across the flank of the table. I've got enough orders, and pick up one of the other objectives not inside the center room, and that would win me the game. I could also go after a classified objective or kill his designated target and maybe pull off a draw. But we're going to try the first and most obvious thing first, and that is to Impetuous with Yojimbo around the corner into base contact with Joan. Both mines go off on him, and he gets to swing. Now, we had a rules question here, and if you follow the Australian Facebook page for infiNity, you might have seen my rules question, and it refers to the fact that McMurray is assisting Yojimbo attacking Joan, so Yojimbo should get +1 burst. Joan, in return, would not get +1 burst, even though the Order Sergeant's actually, engaging McMurray at this point. Like, back in my Warhammer Fantasy days, you'd have these sort of chain close combats where you add up the number of ranks and banners from every, guy involved in the close combat. infiNity doesn't quite work that way. It's just a little bit more, the model that activates, who's reacting to it, and what meets the criteria for bonuses kind of thing. So don't be fooled by the Order Sergeant being involved in the combat. The Order Sergeant actually can't do anything when Yojimbo activates here, because the Order Sergeant's fighting only McMurray. If you had some weird situation where, let's pretend somehow the Order Sergeant's here and Yojimbo somehow comes into base contact with both of them, then you've got this sort of like string of 4 things, and like we color code them, and maybe they both get a burst bonus somehow, but that's a very weird and exotic situation that would even be hard to set up. Not the case here. So Yojimbo comes around the corner. He's close combat 24, Joan's 23. Yojimbo gets +1 dice, so thinking that he needs to keep pace with Joan's stats, he uses Martial Arts level 3 as well. He could use Martial Arts level 4, giving him 3 dice, but the problem with that would he'd go down to CC 21 and Joan would go up to 26, meaning that Joan could crit on like a 14 plus, and Yojimbo could easily roll 3 dice that aren't like 19s and 20s, and he would probably die. So throwing the 2 dice, +1 to my rolls, or whatever it is, +4, and Yojimbo wins with both dice, and he kills Joan. She explodes, and the game is over, because McMurray is more points than the Order Sergeant, and I will now have the room for the third and final game round, putting on 6 objective points to 3. Let's take a moment to reflect on this game. Did my opponent play better than me? I think, yeah. Maybe not, just on the play-by-play tactical level, but in terms of the holistic picture of bringing a better army list and playing that army list better than my army list and taking fewer risks than I took. I did some things which were kind of questionable, going straight for second turn and maybe misdeploying a few things and being a bit overconfident with my army list's ability to complete the mission. My opponent wasn't really under the same sort of delusion there and really punished me for it. Did I get lucky this game? Of course I did. I got ridiculously lucky, and if it hadn't been for that, I would have lost. Let's say that Saito had defended a bit longer, or that McMurray had failed an armor save earlier on in the piece there. There are other things I could have done to try and achieve victory, but they would have been much less likely and more difficult. So I did get lucky here. Of course, this means I go on to win the tournament, so yay me. First place in a tournament for the first time in a couple of years. You know, I've got like a ton of silver medals on my wall, but this time I managed to make it. But had I not been a bit lucky, I don't think I would have managed it. You need to be lucky in infiNity tournaments, at least a little bit, to be able to win them, because there's so much variance involved. Looking over at the other table, the guy that I beat in round 2, the Varuna player, got a very convincing total massive victory over his opponent. So had I not won this game, I would not have won the tournament. And fair's fair. I mean, Thomas was playing really well. His Varuna list, as you guys saw, was very defensive and strong. And you can imagine a lot of people running into the teeth of that and getting jammed into oblivion and dying to a sniper. So there was that. Lessons learned here. I feel like my approach to mission completion and the scenarios and trying to do it that way was a bit of an experiment. I don't think I'll be doing it again. I think I'm just going to play a little bit more aggressively in future and take some, you know, at least one very ball-busting list that I can rely on. Especially in scenarios like this where my list is just too outgunned and too flimsy to be able to win a war of attrition without getting very lucky like I actually did. Soldiers of Fortune, it does seem pretty broken to be able to take McMurray and Yojimbo, you know, in lists that kind of otherwise take them. But even though they're very, very good, they're not so good that they take the place of just running lists that have very good synergy in them anyway. So in future, I might go back to something like Shazvasti or Dashat or something which can really just kick a lot of ass for these kinds of events, even if the Soldiers of Fortune is a factor, you know. Joan of Arc benefits the most from this format, and I think my opponent did the right thing by playing her, and I wouldn't mind giving her a go next time around. There's one of these. I'll go borrow some Joan of Arc and run her and see how well I do with that that factor, or maybe not. You know, we'll see. Hope you guys enjoyed this bat rep. I'm sure there's a lot of comments and things to be said about it, but a very exciting bat rep, very cinematic, and you know the blood was really pumping during that game. I couldn't believe how lucky I was getting, but I'm just going to end the bat rep by saying this one last comment that. The last several big tournaments I've been in, I did kind of get unlucky, you know, in some of those games. So there were other tournaments where I could have come first had I been half as lucky as I was in this game, and sometimes it comes back around to you. So good things come to those who wait. That's great. Managed to get a win for this small tournament. The next one's coming up a little bit later this year, and yeah, that was fun. Stick with me through this weekend though, because I'm going to be talking about O12 and about N4. And I look forward to doing that. See you guys there.